Before we start, I want to take a minute to talk about our friends at Bitwise. Bitwise has a lot to offer to people like us who live and breathe crypto every single day. They're a crypto asset manager with $10 billion in client assets and a team of more than 100 people across the US and Europe. They've got the world's largest crypto index fund, a wide range of crypto ETFs, on-chain solutions, you name it. They also manage private alpha strategies, have SMAs for large investors, and are one of the largest institutional Ethereum staking providers. And by the way, they've been doing it all since 2017. These guys are pretty much OGs. So check out Bitwise, go to bitwiseinvestments.com and see all they've got to offer. That's bitwiseinvestments.com, or just email james@bitwiseinvestments.com and let them know that Rekt brought you over. There are a million ways to access crypto. Do it with those who are all in on crypto, who care about the ecosystem, who live and breathe crypto every day. Look for Bitwise at bitwiseinvestments.com. And of course, always carefully consider the extreme risks associated with crypto.
Hey, Real Vision viewers. A quick pause to introduce you to today's sponsor, Axelar. Axelar is building the rails for the next wave of global finance. Not just crypto, but the future of how assets move, how markets connect, and how institutions plug into open systems. Think of it this way. Bitcoin brought digital gold, Ethereum brought smart contracts, but Axelar is bringing connectivity, the secure link between your favorite blockchain and traditional financial institutions, rushing to plug in. It's why top-tier firms like Dragonfly, Polychain, Coinbase Ventures, and Binance Labs are backing Axelar, and why global giants like Deutsche Bank, MasterCard, Apollo Global, and JP Morgan are already building on it. If you believe the future of finance is open, programmable, and interoperable, Axelar is the gateway. Want to digest deeper? Visit realvision.com/Axelar or follow on X at Axelar. That's AXELAR, the gateway to open finance.
Well, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Rekt Vision. As you may have noticed, that is not OSF as my co-host today. If you missed the show last week, unfortunately, OSF is going to be more of a rotating co-host. He's stepped away from being a main co-host. If you haven't noticed the Rekt chart recently, it's up about 10,000% in the last month. So he's had to spend a lot more time focused on that, and it's going to take a little bit of a step back. Unfortunately, you're still left with me. And I think we're going to change the show slightly. We're going to bring in a few co-hosts, which I enjoy speaking to, that I think are experts in various different fields of crypto and macro and AI. And the first of these is Ejaaz. Some of you may know him from the other podcasts he kind of does alongside the Bankless guys, but he is a CIO of 26cc, which is a liquid token fund, but also just an AI expert. You should definitely check out his tweets, some of the content he makes. I thought I'd bring him on. Welcome to the show, Ejaaz. It's great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me on, man. I'm really pumped about this. I saw the agenda beforehand. I'm not going to leak anything right now, but I am excited. Let's get into it.
Yeah, big shoes to fill with OSF. He doesn't really say much.
What was the name of that DJ Khaled album, Mando? Suffering from Success?
Yeah,
That
suffering from
is
success.
that's OSF right now. So I hope I do it justice, but I am excited.
Awesome. We're also going to have some questions at the end, and we're going to cover a range of different topics, but we're definitely going to have a bit more of an AI trend, let's say, to the topics today. But first, we'll just have a little bit of an overview of the market. I think we're down a little bit on last week, but mainly just on Bitcoin, kind of come back down to this 115, 114K level, which it bounced on. Interestingly, ETH has been outperforming for the last little bit. These ETH treasury companies are really starting to pick up pace. Altcoin season kind of is a will it, won't it moment. Bitcoin dominance is still hanging out at like 61.5%. And it's really just ETH, which has been outperforming. Solana hit kind of 200, but then retreated. Sui retreated. XRP even retreated. Uber drivers in shambles. What are you making of the market at the moment, Ejaaz? It seems to be a bit of a change of market structure towards ETH.
Yes. So a few points on this. I think traditionally in previous cycles, you would often think that when ETH outperforms BTC, BTC's dominance has topped, right? And then you'll go down the whole waterfall of ETH pumps and then ETH alts pump and then everything else pumps. But that market structure broke down pretty convincingly last year when everyone kept on saying that was going to happen. BTC kept going up and ETH never made all-time highs. Now, I don't want to jinx it, but it seems like ETH is going to get the BTC ETF treatment that we saw last year, which would mean that meaningfully, at least in ETH's case, that's going to do very well. Now, from the alts perspective, I'm not entirely convinced we're going to see a cascading waterfall of like alts pumping. I just simply think there are too many. But they are a meaningful percentage of those alts that are going to do well. And that's for a variety of reasons, right? You've got government regulations that are in favor of alts. You've got Trump and his crew enabling stablecoins and a bunch of other things. So I think select alts will do well, but most of them will probably, not see the light of day for a longer time, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think a lot of people have been reaching, even this week, the ETH beta. And I think that is a dangerous spot in points. There are certain things that I think can be really good trades. But if I look at the basket of ETH beta trades, not all of them are doing that amazing. Like even on the meme coin side, it didn't feel like every single meme coin ran. There was only a few. On the DeFi side, it feels like a couple have been okay movers. I mentioned Syrup on this show a couple of weeks ago, which had a decent move over the last week, and Aves had an okay move, but on a risk reward basis, it does feel as though ETH is still slightly outperforming. And there was a commentary actually yesterday by Galaxy. Mike Novogratz, the CEO, came out and said, "Look, I think ETH is going to outperform for the next 3 to 6 months." And then they are out there. They sold hundreds of Bitcoin over the last 24 hours. So it feels like they're doing a very public shift from Bitcoin to ETH. Do you think we're going to maybe see more of that? Do you think?
Yes.
I'm starting to see a little bit of not cope, but like a little bit of fear from the Bitcoin maximalist community that they're getting out already to try and put the daggers into ETH's run. And it surprised me.
Yeah, so I think that can simply be down to the fact that BTC has outperformed ETH so much over the last 2 years. I don't think we need to overthink it from my perspective. I think BTC had the show. It's still getting a ton of inflows anyway from all the ETFs, but now it's ETH's time to shine. And I really think the thing that's been ramping it up has been all the stablecoin legislation that's been passing. The Genius Act, the Clarity Act, all of those are really, the Stripe acquisitions, all of those are really in favor of pointing in the direction of stablecoins are going to be a thing. And ETH is just simply the playground for that to happen. So I've seen this question pop up quite a lot. Mando, a lot of investors ask me this as well. Like, okay, how do I get exposure to these stablecoins? And typically you either point them in two directions. It's either crypto equity, so mainly Circle, which has just been going on a crazy ascent for the last couple of weeks or months, however long it's been since it's IPO'd. And the other thing is simply ETH. And there are a few kind of like beta plays that you can make. Maybe it's ENA, maybe it's some of the more, higher risk alts like Frax or whatever that might be. But largely people are just going to put their money into ETH. And I think we're going to continue seeing that trend. Look at the treasury companies this week. Did you see that, Mando? Well, we have like a guaranteed like 2.5 billion purchase power over the next, I don't know, couple of months at least.
Yeah, I think this is something that I don't know. Maybe the ETH community has not done a great job of communicating, but ETH inflation or ETH supply has actually
Yeah.
been less than Bitcoin for since the most by a lot.
Yeah.
So, and obviously, Bitcoin goes through a halving cycle, and that might not always be the case. But once you start to see multi-billion-dollar treasury companies now forming very, very quickly, and what's interesting is that it's more competitive than what was the case for strategy when they first started. When strategy started doing it, it was like, well, they're kind of doing their own thing, and if it works out, great for them, but nobody was really following them. There's a lot of different people now trying to do this. Bitmine and I think SharpLink are the two, and SharpLink has added, I think, an ex BlackRock executive to their board, so they're kind of going the all-in route. I think that there's going to be a few of these now trying to do this ETH catch up trade. It's not that I'm bearish on Bitcoin. I think I really agree with what Novogratz said, which is that Bitcoin's going 150K, but or maybe 200K, but it's just that ETH might outperform here, and I think that's where I'm at. The story for Bitcoin is not weak. The story for Bitcoin is incredibly strong. I just think the story for ETH is getting very strong. After that, I think we will get similar sort of trades for maybe Solana, but after BlackRock set up an ETF, after it takes some time, I think, to get people on the bandwagon, let's say, and I think we will see that, but maybe it's a little bit too early for that. And there are some other altcoins where you could see it, I reckon, but I think that's maybe more of a later this year, like way later this year or early next year, that you start to see some of those have similar sort of trends around them. This actually takes me to the next point, because I think you have a lot of deep knowledge around AI. You are still a crypto punk. If you follow you on X, you are a hoodie punk, which just hit a floor of $800,000. So congratulations for you. But separately, taking off your just I like ETH, I think ETH's a good trade. Which of these do you think might be more suited to AI, or is that just like a silly question? Do you think they all work on AI, or is it across Bitcoin, across ETH, Solana, Sui? Are there any of these that you stand out to you and go like, oh, this could be the best one?
Okay, so I'll just start off by saying there isn't a clear answer to that at all right now. But there are a few kind of framings that you can put on all of this, which could give you some type of an answer. So let's start with the obvious one, which is, okay, crypto's kind of number one use case, or number one and two, is store of value and monetary asset transfer, mainly in the form of stablecoins. That's been the most popular one, right? Okay. And then if you look in the trend or direction that AI is heading, it's basically going to start off with abstracting away a lot of UX for normal people that aren't just in the crypto world, right? So I should be able to type something in ChatGPT and it gives me something. It buys me something. It automates a bunch of my work stuff for me, right? All of that is going to include payments. And payments aren't largely set up in a scalable manner right now in traditional finance world, right? That's why you have Stripe's acquiring all the companies that they do. And it's going to take time to play out, right? Visa has their own AI agent payment rail program. MasterCard has the same thing as well, right? But crypto has a ton of headway right now on the stablecoin rail side of things. So if we were to objectively just go with that, right? So AI agents are going to facilitate whatever percentage of monetary transfer for whichever market sector you want to pick. ETH is probably going to be your choice right there and then, right? Because it facilitates the majority of those institutional flows, right? The second angle that I would look at this, and I think about this quite a bit, is you want some kind of... Go ahead.
Do you think ETH L1, or do you think the L2? Is there any L2 that stands out for you? Or is it you're just talking about from a pure numbers perspective?
Great question. So I would start off with saying ETH, not ETH L1. ETH L1 is going to facilitate bigger transactions that people don't mind paying a couple of thousand in transaction fees to facilitate $1 billion transfer. AI agents aren't going to do that at scale, not anytime soon, from what I'm seeing at least. So it's going to happen at the L2 layer. I would say there are two ones that are winning, which aren't going to shock anyone right now. It's Base and Arbitrum. Base over Arbitrum right now. Base is in the number one spot. I don't know if you want to categorize Base with optimism. I guess you could do that, but right now it's Base. And then spending a little more time on that to unpack like why I'm choosing Base. Coinbase basically has a market on the most number of crypto consumers and retail consumers. Retail consumers being like not too crypto native like you and I, that are playing around with crypto. So they've captured like, what is it, 200 million customers at this point across their institutional and retail customers. And they're locking them into an app ecosystem. And the main way that they're facilitating this monetary transfer, stablecoin transfer that I explained earlier, something that they're pushing is something called X402. Have you seen this, Mando, by any chance?
No.
Okay, so basically it's an open, accessible payment rail that anyone can just plug into a single API. It's literally 2 lines of code. So for any developers that are listening, this should be the easiest integration ever for you. And suddenly your application can facilitate any kind of stablecoin transfer. You could just pay for whatever you want using this rail. And they designed it specifically for the upcoming onslaught of AI agents that are being built, not just within crypto, but outside of crypto as well. So to answer your question, L2s on ETH from a stablecoin side of things.
It's interesting because Base, obviously, I mean, we obviously had the flurry of AI agent activity kind of back end of last year and earlier this year. And Base was competitive at that point. One of the only things that it really has been competitive on was around AI agents. So it's interesting to see them lean into this. Just as a side point, I don't know if you saw the tweet, but Goldman Sachs and I think BNY Mellon introduced their tokenization platform where they're going to tokenize stocks. They're going to do it on their own proprietary blockchain. What do you think about this? Do you think when TradFi come in, they're just going to build their own blockchains? Because it kind of took, everyone was like, oh, did they build it on Solana? Did they build it on ETH? And Goldman Sachs have come in and built a tokenization platform using Goldman's own proprietary blockchain system. And I thought, wow, like that's not very crypto. It kind of scared me a little bit. Do you think that's just an isolated case and you should just focus on the public blockchains, or do you think when these TradFi giants come in, they're going to want even more control?
Okay,
I mean, they could go down the L2 route. But.
Sure. So whether it's an isolated incident or not isn't really where I would focus. I would just look at how this has previously panned out. So do you remember privatized ledgers, that trend? I think it was DLTs. I forgot what it stands for. You remember that? Basically, every company, including Goldman Sachs, actually, created their own private blockchain. And they did that back in 2017, 2018 cycle. Everyone was doing it, right? They were like, we don't want ETH, we don't want Bitcoin, we don't want anyone else's smart contracts, we want our own. And pretty much 95% of those projects are now dead. And the reason why they were dead is because they couldn't tap into the number one thing that is most important for building out a separate financial system. It's liquidity. It's liquidity more than composability, right? So I think most have learned their lessons from now. That's why Stripe is rumored to be building their own chain, which is going to be an ETH L2. That's why Robinhood is launching their own chain, but it's also an ETH L2. So I think the Goldman and BNY thing, they're going to try it. I'm not surprised at that at all, but I don't think it's going to pan out. My guess.
Yeah, it seemed very much against what we've seen recently, which has been, right, we're going to build on Solana or we're going to build on L2s. And when I started to look through this, I was like, wow, I'm really surprised they went down that route. But okay, so we were focused on AI before that. It's interesting that you say, like, Base is out of this, like, couple of lines of code that would make it easier for AI agent payments. A lot of people have mentioned chains like Sui as being built in languages which better suit AI, or that Solana is obviously very low transaction, high latency would help this. What do you think about those? Do you think it's just because they don't have enough? They just don't have enough TBL essentially, or do you think that's kind of a red herring and that's actually not going to be that big a deal?
No, so I would actually say ETH's biggest competitor is Solana when it comes to this. A lot of Solana fans like to tout their smart contract capability as the reason why they are going to supersede ETH. I actually think that's misdirected and wrong. Their main advantage is monolithic liquidity. What I mean by that is, if you compare it to ETH has the main base chain, and then it has all these L2s stacked on top of it, right? So the liquidity is pretty fragmented. You can't go from one L2 to another L2 without needing to click maybe 5 or 8 times, right? But on Solana, it's one click and everything composes down. Now, from a liquidity perspective, that's great. And Solana has incredibly deep liquidity for stablecoins and their main asset, Sol. Number two, their developer mindshare on Solana is actually really good. I attended a bunch of their conferences recently because like I keep hearing stuff on Twitter, but I'm like on X, sorry. But I want to know like what these builders are actually building. Funny enough, like two things stood out. Number one, they were really focused on all the AI agent stuff. And this is after all the rise and fall of the AI agent stuff of last year, Mando, right? Like, or rather this year, right? They're still building some really important things. But number two, they were agnostic in their approach. So yes, they were building on Solana, but if they wanted to plug in EVM or L2, they were more than open to doing that. So I like that approach because I think ultimately AI agents are going to abstract away any other chain. It doesn't really matter. So two things, liquidity and some form of composability. ETH and Solana kind of lead that right now. Now with Sui, you brought up a really good point, right? Which is ease of being able to build your app is an important one. I'm going to push back slightly on that and say that I don't think it matters right now. I think the thing that matters the most is what type of an app you're going to build. And that matters way more than what kind of coding language you make right now. We're not in the phase of AI right now where your language matters more than what you're actually building.
Right. So these AI agents will essentially be able to read the other blockchains' programming languages
Yes.
fine to be able to make payments. That's not going to be an impediment. What about Bitcoin? What about Bitcoin? Because this is something that interested me. Like, do you think that AI agents are going to naturally move towards Bitcoin as the hardest asset? Also, potentially better privacy. I've kind of wondered if AI agents might go down the route of like, right, we want privacy in what we're doing, or like, particularly if like truly autonomous, like they may actually head towards these sort of chains. What's your view on that? Do you think there is a case that Bitcoin could be the asset that AI agents at least look to accumulate, even if it's not for payments?
Great question. Yes, I think BTC is probably the most likely asset. And by the way, I want to caveat what I'm saying with it depends on what the use case is, right? If we're talking about crypto specific agents, and I define that by agents that are, let's say, doing 50% of their transactions on a blockchain, right, to facilitate some kind of crypto thing, they're most likely going to interface with Bitcoin, mainly as a store of value. And the reason isn't because of some high-level principle, oh, it's more decentralized, blah, blah, blah. It's just that the majority of crypto people hold BTC. The majority of Insta people hold BTC. So it makes sense to store your value in the thing that is mimetically held by the majority of crypto participants, right? On your point of privacy, I don't think they're going to use BTC for privacy solely. There are a ton of privacy solutions that are already being built, whether that's trusted execution environments or ZK privacy protocols that are going to scale much better than BTC. I actually don't think BTC is entirely all that private, at least to the extent that institutions want it to be.
Yeah, it's more marginal. I would agree with that. I would more agree with that. Cool. All right. So we're still kind of saying base might be the best, and Solana. That's an interesting perspective going into it. Maybe we'll zoom out a little bit again, going back to the relevant stuff that happened this week, because there was a lot of Magnificent Seven earnings. There was a lot of news out from major tech firms, and all of those are seemingly around AI. We had Tesla earnings. We had I think OpenAI released a new AI agent, didn't they? They've got ChatGPT 4 seemingly coming out next month. You had
5.
Alphabet earnings. Yeah. What out of this week kind of jumped out to you there from the macro perspective, like, or from those Magnificent Seven? What was the key pieces of news that you thought was going to be interesting over the next few months?
Okay, so as you said earlier when you introduced me, I spend a huge amount of my time in the AI world. I don't know if that's by choice or by the fact that it's just the majority of the biggest things that are happening in tech, in my opinion, are happening in AI. And I'll give you a few examples, right? So just this week, I think the total amount that Meta, or specifically Zuckerberg, has spent to acquire, I think it's 25 people. This is outside of any acquisitions, by the way. Have a guess, Mando.
Wow.
Take a guess. How much do you think he
Well,
spent?
wasn't it
25
billion
people. 25
yeah,
people.
I would guess 10. I would guess in the 10 sort of range. It's something crazy, right?
Like 10 billion, is what you said?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. You kind of outclassed me. It's $5 billion.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I wasn't that far off.
You weren't that far
It's
off.
wild.
For 25 people. That was outside of his Scale AI investment, where he spent $15 billion to acquire basically one guy, Alexander Lim. So the point I'm making with this is crypto money is kind of like pales to like nothing in comparison to the amount that a single man or company is spending on 25 people, right? And the reason why this is so important is they've understood one thing very clearly. Whoever owns intelligence, which can be defined as owning the number one AI model or creating the number one AI model or creating the social layer that these AI models are going to be interfaced in, like ChatGPT or whatever that might be, is going to be worth trillions of dollars, right? I saw a tweet that came out today from Elon Musk, which I think is a good transitionary period to Tesla earnings, Mando, which is he said, yep, Tesla could probably be a $20 trillion company eventually. Now, Elon says a lot of crap, right? But he's also the most dialed founder that I've seen, right? When it comes to all of these different kinds of things. And it's really interesting when someone describes Tesla as a car company, like it's a car company, electric car company, all the no, it's not. No, it's not. It's an AI company. Oh, but okay, but then X is a social company. No, it's not. It's now officially owned by XAI, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
So he is basically building out a protocol of different AI companies. He wants to own the model layer. He wants to own the data layer. And guess what? He wants to own the social layer as well. These are where basically all the biggest bags are going to be made, and they are investing so much money. Elon announced this week that he is building a Colossus 2. Colossus 1 was the name of his data center. And I think he spent something like, whatever, $150 million on it. On his second data center, he's spending upwards of $800 billion. $800 billion for the next 5 days.
These figures are starting to get like the thing I've really taken away from the Meta moves recently is it's kind of deeply unsettling because it's starting to get to the point where originally I think Meta was seen as slightly far behind the rest of their competitors, and then they went open source Llama, and then now they're like, no, actually we want to own this and we want to own the model. Are they going to move away from this open source kind of thing that they were trying to do before? So now, like, we want to own this in house and we want to own the super intelligence. I think it is slightly unsettling. And obviously, yeah, you mentioned Tesla earnings. It does feel like they didn't have great earnings of what I could see, but it does feel as though the story for the AI bit of it is still very, very strong, or gotten increasingly strong.
Well, actually, let me say something on the open source point you made, Mando, because I think it's a really important one that you just made, which is Meta has been the only Mag 7 company that has gone down the open source route. And by that, any AI model that they've created, they've open sourced. And the reasoning that Zuck gave is that, it's for the people, intelligence should be for everyone, but mainly he wanted to catch up to OpenAI. Now he's taken a different strategy, which is I'm going to spend trillions of dollars to buy the best minds in AI, and then I'm going to build my own model and privatize it. So I agree with you. He's not going to open source it. But there's one glaring opposition to all AI intelligence companies in the US that has been kind of like glaring down on everyone. And it's China, Mando. So China over the last, I think, well, technically it's 8 days now, have released 2 AI models that have outcompeted Claude, which is Anthropic's like flagship model, and OpenAI's model in coding, in creative writing, and in app development. Guess what? Both of them are open source. Both of them are 1 trillion parameters, which is, by the way, for anyone listening to this, is huge. So you have to ask yourself, why are they going down that route?
Well, if I was to try to destroy US stock market value, that'd be the number one route I'd be trying to do.
Exactly.
Which is open source everything and try and destroy it that way. I think it's an interesting model. I don't know if it will work long term, but I do think it's going to be because they're going to keep on trying to iterate on these models on a closed end, the closed source way. So I still don't know how this goes, but these moves by Meta make me feel that that's a little bit worrying. I want to focus a little bit on the agents because it feels as though OpenAI released a new agent this week, right? And we spoke about agents, agents in crypto. There are a lot of firms, again, at the start of this year, who are still, let's say, building more crypto native agents. What do you think here? Do you think the developments on crypto facing AI agents are going to come from within crypto? Or do you think it's going to come from people like OpenAI now? Do you think is it an unassailable lead and it's kind of, we're just tweaking their models?
Good question. I think that, okay, so let me answer the question, which is like, how good are these AI agents right now? We've seen kind of like the crypto people build it out, and we've seen the open AIs of the world build it out. There's nothing really meaningful that are coming out of either camp, if I'm just being honest with you, right? So this week, OpenAI released their new agent, and it's a combination of two of their popular features, which is called Agent Operator and Research, Deep Research. And the combination of that is this new agent. And I've been using it for the last week. It's good at organizing my calendar. It is great at like building a bunch of apps if you wanted to, or like automating a bunch of things, but it doesn't really do anything meaningful at this point. And so by meaningful, I mean like for a wider variety of people that would just want to kind of like get it to do something for them or like post on their social media account. So it's still very niche, if I'm being honest with you. On the Web3 side of things, I think what crypto has realized is they need to build use cases for crypto people right now. They can't like try and take on Stripe payments, for example, but they can take on DeFi yield or stablecoin transfers for whatever that might be. And I think that's really like net quite good. Does that answer your question, Mando?
Yeah, perfect. I think I agree that it has to be niche specific, and I also think that people aren't ready to give up complete control to these sort of things yet, particularly both on a personal level and the applications themselves. So it's become there are a few roadblocks, I think, in the face of that. One thing I have seen though this week, just touching upon those sort of use cases, that we saw Grok do a partnership, I think yesterday with Kalshi, which was a little bit confusing because X had also done a partnership with Polymarket, but it does feel like AI agents meet prediction markets.
It's great.
Could be where this is going.
Yes.
What do you make of all this?
I'm so happy you raised this. Okay, so just for some context for the listeners, prediction market is basically like a betting market, right? But we don't officially want to say that. And the reason why it got so much popularity, especially around the U.S. presidential election time, was it basically identified that Trump was going to win before any other polling station or like survey company. And so it became branded as the number one truth-seeking instrument. So if you want to figure out what the reality is behind an event, look at the prediction market for it. If you want to figure out whether some place has been bombed or whether someone's won A, B, or C, look at the prediction market. And so people started thinking, okay, these prediction markets are cool, but like I've never seen one. I've never interacted with one. I spend all my time on social media. So what X decided to do was partner with the top 2 prediction markets creators. And 2 weeks ago, they partnered with Polymarket, which is a Web3 crypto-based prediction markets platform. And this week, as you've got it up on this screen here, they partnered with Kalshi. So 2 of the biggest prediction markets are now with X. I put out this tweet, I think, yesterday or 2 days ago, but I'll just recount it right now, which is basically I said, step 1, add prediction markets to every single popular X post that is on my newsfeed. So I scroll and I see a crazy claim, and then I just see, community notes, how that works? Like, you typically see, whether something's real or not. You'll now see a prediction market, and I'll be like, oh, okay, that's...
you can do that now? You can
What?
do that?
No, not on prediction markets. No. On
Okay.
community. I'm saying this is what I think is going to happen.
Oh, yeah. I think that's
Yeah,
gonna happen too.
it's going to get integrated into the feed. That's number one, right? So you're scrolling, you're on your phone, you're just kind of like scrolling. You're like, oh, okay, cool. Number two, you're going to be able to tap a button to bet on it yourself. Let's say you were at the event specifically and you saw who won the gold medal, or let's say you're on the ground in some kind of war zone and you saw what happened or you heard what happened. You can bet. You can like place your bets, and it's going to be super easy. You want to know how that's going to be enabled? Most likely, it's going to happen via some form of stablecoin route. Or some kind of like Stripe integration, but most likely stablecoin route. And I can say that because I've like spoken to the team a bunch, and I know the direction that they're headed towards, or that they're strongly considering. So I'm really excited about that, right? Then step 3 is obviously take a percentage of every transaction whilst being crowned like this kind of like truth-seeking machine. So I'm really excited by this because it's one of crypto's newer consumer applications that are really doing well. And this could be like a huge win.
Yeah, let's bet on this is about to go wild. Like I think
Yes.
there's a mixed feeling about like obviously betting is for every single sports event in the US, it's now like, various different betting companies. You're now going to see this with every major piece of news that you see. I am almost certain of it, like you just said, either on X or via like native media. Like you'll be reading a New York Times article, and at the end it will say like, "Would you like to bet on this?" I mean, I know because I'm close with the Myriad team who kind of partner with Decrypt, and they've done various different integrations. That's how they're viewing it too. Like prediction markets meets news, or prediction markets meets social media is a potentially a massive market.
Huge.
And I do think these sort of when it integrates with AI, integrates with AI agents, like you just said, that would be one of the simplest things for them to go do, right? Like AI agent, hey, just go predict stuff for me and go bet on them and see how things go, right?
So let's talk about like, let's focus on the main reasons why you would use an AI agent in this, right? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people that are listening to this being like, you're just slapping AI agent on anything, right? On everything. Like, why would you need it? There's some important reasons. Number one, people are lazy. They don't have eyes 24/7. But very soon, everyone's going to have a virtual version of themselves. And you can describe it as the AI model version of them, or a virtual companion, whatever you want to term it. You're going to have someone that basically looks at post 24/7 and makes decisions based off of that, right? It's going to fine tune your algorithm and newsfeed. It's going to make payments for you, whatever that might be. Why wouldn't it make bets? Right?
Well,
It would make bets. Now, go ahead.
even if it's just arbitrage as well, right? Like, because
Exactly.
one thing
That was my second thing.
I
Yeah.
do see is this wild amounts of differences in very similar or literally the same bet. Sometimes they're worded differently on different sites, but it does feel as though there's a lot of arbitrage to be done here between the different markets.
Huge. Yeah. I mean,
Like,
the markets are also like small as well, right? Some of these markets are kind of like, maybe it's a local event in your jurisdiction that you feel strongly about, but like not many people in the global order care, right? You're going to need someone to like arb that for you. It's not going to be you. It's not going to be you spending an hour of your time. It's going to be an agent that doesn't care about how much it gets paid, just gets on with it.
And it's not just events, right? It's a lot of this is now sports. Like you go onto Kalshi,
Correct,
and it's basically just sports. Polymarket has pushed sports a lot. All the other smaller firms are pushing sports. So again, you'll be able to arbitrage it versus large sports books as well, which I think it will be one of the most obvious ways that AI agents are able to come in and kind of do stuff. And I think it's interesting to see how it's already kind of fully forming. In terms of other stuff this week, I don't know if that much of it was AI. I think those were maybe the main things, but I do think it's important that we should speak about CryptoPunks a little bit, because you are a CryptoPunk, as we just said, and we spoke about ETH beaters at the start of the week. I think we've had big moves again in the brand coin. So obviously OSF left. Rekt has hit multiple all-time highs after all-time highs. That's a bit of a trend. Pengu and Rekt, I think, are definitely the strongest. But NFTs are emerging again as a bit of a ETH beta trade, which people like, and in particular CryptoPunks. CryptoPunks up to a 50 ETH floor. You saw $3 million sweep of Pudgy Punks today, plus I think a $5 million ape punk traded.
Yep.
And you have people like Arthur Hayes, bull posting Punk, saying they're going to outperform ETH. I think I actually just saw a post from Ansem saying he's going to move into being an ETH bull for the rest of the cycle. I don't know if it was Which
Might
would
be
be
the
hilarious.
top.
Exactly tongue in cheek. What do you make of these here? Do you think actually? Oh, wow! You've got art blocks in the back there. I didn't realize that too. Do you think this is just a punks only
Yeah.
trade, or do you think
Um,
this is just? You think it's going to be broader?
I think it'll be broader. I think punks is typically the leading indicator, right? It's like the Bitcoin of NFTs, if you want to kind of like simplify it. I'm a massive proponent and fan of NFTs. I still feel the same way that I did back when it got crazy in 2020. It is the ultimate way to own a digital collectible. In fact, it's probably the only way right now, right? Outside of just like platform owned digital assets. And if you just look, if you zoom out, right, just step away from NFTs for a second. If you speak to anyone's kid that is 15 years old and younger, they've all heard of Roblox, they've all heard of Fortnite, and they all have accounts on there. And I bet you they've all done a bunch of transactions with mommy and daddy's Apple Pay card or whatever that might be. So the growing generations care about this stuff, but obviously they're not the ones that are spending millions of dollars on these things. I think why punks is such a big focus right now is for a few reasons. Number one, you mentioned that it's a levered bet on ETH. Yes, I would agree on that. And it is usually where money flows first after ETH has pumped pretty significantly, right? People get wealthy from their ETH trade and they're like, okay, I want to flex a little bit, or I want to own some kind of digital asset or beta leverage. Okay, I'm going to put my money into punks. That's number one. But number two is I think these things are largely being, what's the word, ossified as the original art collectibles. And punks like defines that massively, right? The floor sweeps are something that I haven't seen in a while, Mando. And to spend $10 million on hoodie punks over the last, like, I think 3 days is insane, right? You just said the floor for hoodie punks right now is $600,000 or something like that, which is just insane,
Yeah.
right? And so people are talking more about the traits and all that kind of thing. But the third thing is we kind of opened the show about this. Digital asset treasury companies, right? So we spoke about ETFs, but we spoke about these digital asset treasury companies, which are buying Bitcoin treasuries for their reserves, but now ETH treasuries for their reserves. The new trend is some of them have started to buy NFTs, Mando. Now, I don't know whether this is going to become a formative trend, but it's just a sign of the times of where things are going. People want to own crypto assets as some kind of treasury backing for their stock or their private equity valuation.
Do you think the equity market is ready for the NFT stories to come back? I don't know if somebody announced they're going to buy NFTs that has the same impact. But I agree with you. Like it does feel like the obvious trade here. It's an interesting time though for NFTs because even this week we've seen other collections seemingly like retrench or not in the same sort of place. It like Doodles announced big layoffs. You've had I think Pixel Vault closed their doors. Like some of these, if you were around in 2021, some of the NFT collections which were still kicking are kind of retreating or even closing down at the moment, and yet punks just keep going. So, do you think that's the at the same time? You know, Rekt has done well. Pudgy Penguins has done well as kind of reinventing themselves around that. But it does feel as though this digital collectible art style movement can be strong, although we haven't seen it extend that much. Like I haven't seen. I think Fidenzas have been on the move, but like not yet. Do you think that's the trade? Do you think to get into some of these now, or do you think it's too risky?
I mean, so speaking personally, it's what I've been doing. I can't speak for everyone else, but that's basically what I'm foreseeing. It'll follow down like some kind of waterfall effect where, okay, if they're buying punks, next will be some of the OG art blocks releases like Fidenzas, archetype stuff like that, which I think will be kind of like used as some kind of again focusing on the collectibles side of things. I don't think Bored Apes are going to get bought up in mass quantities anytime soon. I think tastes have kind of like evolved over time, but I think we're going to see way more of these things happen. The other thing I was going to say is I think this whole notion of owning collectibles is just becoming an ingrained behavior as more and more people see stable coins in the news headlines, crypto ETFs, all those kind of things. They've always thought of crypto, and maybe I'm projecting this, but in my opinion, they've always thought of crypto as just this kind of like crazy magical internet money, and no one really takes it seriously. Now they're starting to take it seriously. Now they're starting to believe in the meme that we originally spoke about over the last decade, which is like, no, this magical internet money can be a store of value if enough people kind of like understand how the order of effects work. And I think this is like piling into collectibles as well. As long as ETH continues to outperform, we're going to see more of these punk purchases happen, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do think so. I mean, they topped out all time. I think it's like 400 to 500K, right? And they're now just shy of 200K a punk at the moment. I think they can have some.
2.5x.
I think they can have some legs. They can have some legs. It'll be interesting to see that if ETH breaks through all-time high, if they can kind of keep pace, or if they, or they fall off. Like they can actually outperform, or they can underperform in that world.
Mando, I will bet whatever you want on stream right now. I'll bet you dinner or whatever you want that it will. It will. Always does.
Yeah. It does. I think it outperforms. I think the issue is when the market turns, the liquidity can turn very quickly. So you kind of they feel amazing on the way up, these sort of trades, and then suddenly if something happens, it's like, oh no, I can't exit it for anything. Well, not for anything. I think punks will always find a pitfall, but it does feel as though, particularly if you go down the spectrum, like if you're buying OG art blocks, for example, and you don't time this correctly, you can be stuck in them for a long time. Like Fidenza's trade, like we're trading like once a month for periods of the last bear market. So interesting to see. Is there anything else that you're looking at the moment, like maybe broadly across, apart from just crypto? Is there anything else that's like you're focused on at the moment from a top down perspective?
Well, I actually wanted to add one more point before I answer that question, Mando, because I think we need to shine some light on Pengu as well, or like the Pudgy Penguins.
Let's talk about it.
I mean, dude, just a shout out to Luca. I don't know Luca personally, never met the guy, but like that guy is hustling hard, right? He was hustling hard throughout the bear market. Then everyone started identifying Pudgy Penguins as a blue chip NFT. Everyone bought it, and then it crashed with all the other NFTs, and he's still shipping, and now it's like had a whole entire resurgence. I've been playing around with the new Pudgy Penguin game. I've seen a few screen recordings and stuff like that. I don't know if you've been exposed to it yet, Mando. I hate to say it, I don't want to jinx it, but it's really good. And the point that I'm trying to make around here is, one thing kids these days, or like humans in general, are very used to is some form of in-app currency, right? Whether it was Clash of Clans or RuneScape back, I'm dating myself a little bit here, but like, whatever game you're playing, there's some kind of currency, but it's very rare that a cryptocurrency itself has really kind of like scaled up. And largely it's been restricted by like the Apple App Store makers, right? Which have said like, you can't trade crypto, you can't do anything. Like you've been restricted. And then stablecoin transfers, and then the SEC, Gary Gensler, they were like negative on crypto. Funnily enough, all of those things have flipped and no one's talking about it. Now you can transact certain cryptos within your app. Now there's loopholes to have Pengu being integrated into like a number one consumer game. So I think if we start to see more of these types of builders happen, their token will do very well. And let's talk about Pengu from just a market perspective, right? How much is the market cap right now? It's like what, 3 billion, 2.5 billion?
Just over 3, I think, at the moment. Or
just over.
It's very difficult to work out because I know the FDV is like high, but I know they burned some of the FDV, so I don't know if the numbers are correct. But it's around that sort of level. It's obviously been a crazy move.
Right. And so we're not talking about $100 million market cap coin, right?
Yeah.
It's held so well throughout this entire dump.
I think the thing that's impressed me about this is what you said. If you look at, because how he set it up is Igloo as the top co, and then they've got Abstract, and then they've got Pudgy Penguins, and it's kind of interesting to see the various different things they've got involved in. Originally, it was the It was the toys. I think they're still doing the toys, but I don't know if they're doing the Walmart anymore. They're doing them in like different places, but they've got a big media business. They're doing like these small Labubu like
Yeah,
key rings now at the moment, and then they've got the games like you said they're going to do, which is going to hopefully have some use case for the coin. But I think he's really trying to build a brand which is very associated with crypto. Like he keeps on saying, "Look, we're trying to flip Doge," which I think when a lot of people think of crypto, they think of Doge, right? Like maybe even as much as Bitcoin for like a certain age bracket of consumers, right? Because it was associated with
you're right.
that period where Elon was like bull posting it, um, and I think the idea is that now Pengu is going to try and be there for crypto. It's a long way to go. Obviously, Doge is 30 billion or whatever it is. So it's a long way, but he is building a very, very strong, multifaceted brand. And I think the difference between just to compare it to kind of what we've done kind of with Rekt is like we started with a product and immediately we made the coin work. He's kind of built out the brand itself first, and then now they're going to try and switch on
Yep.
maybe some of these integrations, like you say, and it'll be interesting to see how that is done. But in terms of the strongest narratives at the moment, brand coins, which and ETH, and now ETH NFTs, kind of like or like the OG ones, like the really really, those are the three strongest ones I see
Yep.
at the moment. I don't see much else in crypto which is outperforming.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that trend continues? Or is there something that no one's talking about right now that will probably get most of the next set of inflows? Maybe it's Solana. What do you think?
Yeah, I think ETH I think everyone's expecting it to fall off here. That's my general sense is that everyone's expecting it to kind of return to doing its ETH sort of stuff. And I think that this is a medium term trend. Like I think the ETF inflows have basically started 2 months ago. And I think the ETH treasury company started a month ago. To
Mhm.
call top on that feels very early. Like if it's like calling the top on Bitcoin treasury companies a couple of months into MicroStrategy starting in 2020. Like these things could go on for the next year and have ongoing impacts for the next year. So I think these are strong medium term trends, and I wouldn't fade them that early. But
Mhm.
I have been interested in some of the other L1s just as a kind of like an AI trade because I start to see some of those pick up, and I've been looking at a bit more of some of the DeFi. DeFi is a very interesting landscape for me because I get very bullish on it, and then I get like I kind of I kind of see what Goldman Sachs just did, or I see the Clarity Act and I go like, oh, actually this feels mixed. So
Mm.
there are certain trends like you said you like stable coins, and I think it's very difficult to work out at times like where is the best place to play that. Do you just play it by the L1? Like I said, I like Syrup, which is the coin of Maple, which has its own kind of stablecoin slash RWA play, but you also have ENA, which is what you said, Athena, which is like an interesting stablecoin play. Like some of those, but I don't know if those are parabolic. I don't know if
Yeah.
those are like next trades. The next trades need to come from like the NFT degen bit of the market, and there's been some very big gains in like Rekt and Pengu. Like these are the coins that have kind of led that. I don't think as a concept it's that difficult to replicate the idea of a strong brand within crypto using a coin as a form of marketing
Yep.
or to unlock their community. That, like you said, there's a lot more now that can be done with some of these coins, and there are some strong brands in crypto. So I don't know if we're going to start to see. There's been some kind of fumbles, I think, within the NFT community because they're like closing down right at the point where I feel like
Yep.
if you had a strong brand in crypto, you can do quite a lot with it. So I think we may see some moves there. Like I think the idea of the brand coin narrative could really grow. I also think that could come from outside of crypto. Like could a Barstool create a coin? Um could one of these other cult like brands come in and create a brand coin? I think that now's the time that that could happen too. So I'll be interesting to see how that develops.
I mean, what you just highlighted there is a trend of two worlds merging, right? We've often separated crypto as crypto and then the rest of the world, right? And now you have these digital asset treasury companies, which are kind of combining these NASDAQ traded companies with stocks, but they're holding treasury reserves in crypto. Oh, that's kind of weird, but now everyone's kind of doing it. And then you're describing like these larger, I think on the Solana folk call it internet capital markets, right? We had like that Believe app phase, very short phase, where these companies, these traditional tech startups were IPOing with some kind of a meme coin. I think the main prohibitor of a lot of those companies being successful has been some form of legitimate framework from regulators to be like, okay, you know what, your token can be kind of some form of pseudo equity instrument, but like we need to just layer this in and figure this out, and you're going to have to bear with us. It's going to take some time. There's the Clarity Act, there's the Genius Act. It's going to take time, right? But to your point, it's ironic that most crypto people are burned out right at the point where it's getting not easy, but way more amenable to do the thing that you've been trying to do. All those legal cases that you've been trying to fight are all being dropped now, right? Now's the time to up the aggression. But sadly, I think a lot of people are burned out. And you might be right, Mando, where we might just see the successful ones come from like traditional product minded folks from other sides of tech, which now see an opportunity.
Yeah, I think Believe app is it was an interesting idea in the right time for it. Just wasn't quite right with the execution. And I think the difficulty is that these NFT companies which built brands, they just have a lot of fixed costs and didn't prepare for this essentially in the right way. And then they almost like if they started all over right now, like if NFT season actually started right now and it didn't happen in 2021, you could actually do way more. And that's kind of it almost happened too early and people got burned and promises weren't correct. Interesting, like Moonberg's kind of they've done like a rebuild and maybe they go down this route of like, right, they've got a brand, maybe they can try and do it. So that's one I'm like looking at, and I've bought a few Moonbirds for that sort of reason. But I do think it's now the time to like look at which brands are around and do some interesting things with them. Cool. We've got 5 minutes. I think let's maybe go to some of the questions, and I think they are generally AI. So maybe we'll pitch into both of us. But oh yeah. Firstly, let's shout out to our affiliate. We're sponsored by Arch Public. You know the guys that come on the show very, very often. Obviously the AI algo I bet has been trading around ETH and Bitcoin. If you think we're going to be trending for the next little period, I think it's a very interesting thing to own, particularly for the Bitcoin product. So go check them out at realvision.com/arch. And now to the questions. So Shafiq on the Real Vision website says, what do you think will happen to Coinbase in a few months? When will we get a major pullback? Do you look at Coinbase stock? Is that an interesting one for you?
I mean, I formerly worked there. So,
Of course.
I have, So I have a bunch of Coinbase stock. I mean, in my heart of hearts, I hope. Yeah, I know. Great trade of my working time back in the day, I guess. So it's surpassed all-time highs from its DPO, not IPO, because it was a direct offering, right? And funnily enough, its previous all-time high was $420.69. Then it kind of like blew past that. I honestly don't have an answer for you, Mando. I don't know. All I know is that if any single company is positioned the best to own all of crypto inflows and outflows, transaction type, stablecoin transfers, it's going to be Coinbase, but it's not without competition. And Robinhood is breathing down their neck right now, right? Stripe is kind of like taking out the infrastructure route. And I know that Coinbase has strategically been trying to figure out the infrastructure side of things more so than the consumer side of things. They're paying a lot of attention to the consumer side of things with Base and et cetera, but like they really wanted to own the infra side of things. They've got two competitors breathing down their backs. I don't know when that translates into market progression. Maybe all three of them kind of like go up only. I know Stripe isn't public yet, but maybe in the private markets. Actually, I don't know. I don't have an easy answer on that.
Yeah, I think people are looking at a lot of these right now. I think any of them with a unique story, but I think the fact that Coinbase owns the chain, it's I think, and it obviously does a ton of different things. It doesn't just do one thing. It's not just an exchange. I think it's an interesting equity story. Galaxy, people have been looking at as well, which certainly does a various different things in crypto, and obviously some of them more unique stories like Circle. But it just feels like people are reaching for equity exposure in crypto, and
Yeah.
it's it can start to trade very different to a discounted cash flow sort of valuation when people start to do that. Like it can really blow past all expectations. So I I would definitely be buying Coinbase. I think it's a very interesting trade here. Melvin on the Real Vision website says, which AI agents in crypto are still worth looking at? So I think we touched upon this earlier, like maybe the major agents are now are kind of coming from the Magnificent Seven. But are there any crypto native firms you're kind of looking at that you think are doing interesting things?
Yeah, so there's still a few that I kind of default use or play around with that are useful. And I think that more importantly, their teams are just heads down trying to solve the problem, which I think is actually the most important thing to figure out if you're looking at it from an investments perspective or just even a research perspective. So just a few, and none of these are like I'm invested in or whatever. It's just more like I use them. Griffin is really good. Griffin, Griffin. Really cool company, and like the founders are just ex product people from Silicon Valley, right? So they're not really focused on like token price and stuff. They just want to build a good product, and arguably it is one of the slickest ones out there, right? The other kind of sector in AI agents that I spend a lot of time on is which agent gives me the best yield. Best yield doesn't mean highest yield, but consistent yield, right? So like I check my account balance every 2 weeks and I'm like, okay, am I consistently getting X percentage in my account? And I've tracked it over like 6 months or so right now. One that stands out to me, again, I'm not invested in it, is Giza, Giza. Just a solid founder and team that have been just kind of like trying to ship agent vaults, which basically manage any kind of capital that you give it across like a bunch of different lending strategies, perp strategies, whatever that might be. And then there's a few other agents that are kind of out there, like that are more performative. And by performative, I mean like they're more consumer oriented, like Ask Billy Betts. Ask Billy Betts is, I mean, we spoke about Polymarket and Kalshi earlier, right? Ask Billy Betts is a sports betting agent, which sounds ridiculous on the face of it. And I also thought it was ridiculous until I met the team. And I actually saw their product and I saw how it works. And I was like, oh, okay. So you're not one of those AI agent teams that are just LARPing. You've actually built something really unique here. And if you don't believe me, go check out its win record over the last like 3 months. It's been performing against human bettors in the sports betting realm, and it's been beating them. So just a fun one out there.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, we spoke about that for the prediction markets. It's going to be the same for sports betting, I'm sure. Like that, and then there'll be arbitrage ones like we spoke about. I do think betting markets and prediction markets is where we're going to see some very, very strong AI agents. So those are 3 useful ones. I think finally there was a question here from BLA on YouTube. Any concerns with the surge of ETH being unstaked? So if you're not aware at the moment, there is, how ETH works is you often stake it at some of the major staking companies. Lido is probably the major one. And I think there's I think billions at this stage of ETH waiting to be unstaked. At the same time, there is billions waiting to stake.
To be staked,
but, yeah. But when this last happened, we saw a big underperformance of ETH, although there wasn't the same amount. It's the net which I think is important. Or is there anything else that you wanted to kind of add on that? I wasn't that worried when I looked at this.
Yeah, I'm not worried for the same reason why people shouldn't really be worried on BTC and ETH long term. So, okay, let's play this out. Let's say billions of ETH is unstaked. Short term, that might create a lot of dampening volatility, right? People are selling to profit out or cash out, whatever that might be. But if you look at the long-term picture, all these ETFs, including the BlackRock ETH ETF, have filed for staking. So what do you think is going to happen to all the BTC inflows that have been like piling in over the last couple of months? It's going to get staked.
Yeah, this is what I thought as well. I think it's very key to look at the net figure, and the net figure is much smaller than when this happened this time last year. When this
Correct.
happened early last year, I think it was, you saw like a 25% underperformance of ETH after that, and it is a good signal, but the net figure is the really important one. And yeah, clearly with all the staking ETFs, it feels as though we're going to see a lot more staked over the medium term. I think that's probably one of the reasons why we've seen a huge inflow into the ETH ETFs. Okay, I think we've just come up on an hour, but it was awesome to have you this week, Ejaaz. I think we're going to have you in kind of the rotation that we spoke about. So maybe we'll see you towards the end of next month, and hopefully we'll have a ton more AI, crypto, NFT news we can kind of go through. But you've done a really good job of filling in for OSF as our first co-host.
I don't think I could ever fill the shoes of him, but it was an honor being able to try. Thanks for having me on. This was super fun. I love talking about this stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, we loved having you too. So that was it for this week, guys. Obviously, go check us out on the Real Vision website. You can various subscription options there, or you'll be able to see us for free on YouTube as well next week. We're going to have a different co-host come in for then. But we'll see you again next time, and thanks a lot for tuning in, guys.
See you guys.
Hey, Real Vision viewers. A quick pause to introduce you to today's sponsor, Axelar. Axelar is building the rails for the next wave of global finance. Not just crypto, but the future of how assets move, how markets connect, and how institutions plug into open systems. Think of it this way. Bitcoin brought digital gold, Ethereum brought smart contracts, but Axelar is bringing connectivity. The secure link between your favorite blockchain and traditional financial institutions, rushing to plug in. It's why top-tier firms like Dragonfly, Polychain, Coinbase Ventures, and Binance Labs are backing Axelar, and why global giants like Deutsche Bank, MasterCard, Apollo Global, and JP Morgan are already building on it. If you believe the future of finance is open, programmable, and interoperable, Axelar is the gateway. Want to digest deeper? Visit realvision.com/Axelar or follow on X at Axelar. That's AXELAR, the gateway to open finance.